The only thing that holds many of us back from using the power of intention, prayer, and focused meditation is a belief issue. Does it really work? Lynne McTaggart has devoted several years chronicling the scientific study of this phenomenon known as the power of intention, and has come back with an unmitigated yes, it does work.
Cleve Baxter isn't a scientist. He's the country's leading lie detector expert. And he got involved purely by accident. He was sitting in his office one night, bored, and he looked over at one of his plants. It was a Dracaena, a cane plant, and he thought to himself, I wonder what would happen if I hooked it up to one of my polygraph machines. So he did, and at the time, this is in the 1960s, polygraph equipment consisted of a set of electrodes attached to a readout mechanism that is like a pen describing a sideways S. And if you're telling the truth, it's a small s. If you're lying, it's a great big S. So he attached his plant to this piece of equipment, and he thought to himself, well, let's see what happens when I pour some water in. So he did, and the plant acted as though it were bored. You know, if the plant was a human being, it would be sort of saying to itself, home, ho-hum. So he thought to himself again, well, maybe I have to do something a little bit more drastic. Maybe I'll burn its leaf.
And that's so cruel.
I know, absolutely. And at the very moment he thought that, the plant went wild. The readout mechanism started describing this giant S, as though the plant were stressed. And he kept thinking the thought. He went and he got some matches, he lit the matches, and the plant was going crazy. So he finally stopped thinking this, and the plant also calmed down, and the S became smaller. So he thought to himself at that point, what was that? This plant has just read my thoughts. So for the next 40 years, Cleve Baxter went about trying to figure out what he had just witnessed. He set up all kinds of experiments, not only with plants, but with eggs and yogurt and bacteria, even human sperm, just testing what he thought to call primary perception, which was the ability of other living things to pick up and read the thoughts around them, and this kind of transmission and reception that's going on all the time between living things. He had some amazing results. He had an automated system whereby he had a little batch of brine shrimp, and at a certain point when he flipped a switch, the brine shrimp would go into some boiling water and die. And at that moment, his plants, who were hooked up to polygraph machines, would all register alarm.
This fascinating interview details several studies that show us how our intentions can be harnessed as a collective force for the good. For the full interview, go to ConsciousMediaNetwork.com.